Hi, it's Sandy from s.ranellearts, and today we will be reviewing the Prima Marketing Shimmering Lights palette. So here's the palette, and it is one of the little metal ones, has the ring in the bottom, and we open it up. It has the card to do your own little palette if you don't want to do it the way I did, and it contains room for 12 half pans. That popped out, but it pops right back in. They're loose, but that's fine. All right, so these are the shimmering lights, and if you have checked out or would like to check out any of my other reviews of the Prima Marketing, you will notice that I complained a little bit about the fact that there were no words, there were no names rather, to go with the different colors of the paints. And so I just followed what I felt was the way they worked on this little illustration, and that's how I put them in the previous pans that I had. However, this was the last one I got, and it did actually have the names on the half pans as you opened them. So I knew to put them in the right order with the right numbers, and I gave them the right names. So I will use those as I go. I'm not sure why they didn't name the other ones or put the names on with the other ones when they first started those. I don't know if they've corrected that. I've had them now for almost a year, but that can be frustrating if you're the kind of person who needs the names. I sort of get used to the colors after using them for a while, and then I go with that. So, all right, here we go. Let's dive right in. So I am going to spritz my palette with my little mister, and I love this starting that way. It works so much better than dropping water in whatever colors you plan on using. We have I have my little mixing tray here, and I'm going to put this over here and maybe see if that works a little better, so that I'm sure to get the palette on the camera, because this is the second time I'm doing the shimmering lights, but the amount of technical difficulties that I have in filming this for a new YouTuber, and difficulties meaning I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing, is amazing. So I have already done this video, and it probably came out in portrait mode instead of landscape mode, knowing me. Who knows? Sometimes I'm using my phone. Sometimes halfway through a recording, my phone says it doesn't have enough storage and it just shuts off, and there's no warning, so I kept going. And anyway, so I've redone this little swatch card, and I used feathers. I'm loving these little feathers. I just drew them out in pencil, went over them with my micron, and went ahead and erased my pencil lines, and here we go. We're going to do a nice light nice light little coloring of this. So starting with the first feather, and I'm using gold. I'm going to use just a very nice light wash. One of the things that I definitely have gotten used to when I'm doing these videos is that my washes are often too heavy. Now, one of the things about the iridescent palette is that these take a little bit more water to get moving, to get activated, and so it's not that hard to do a light wash because I don't have a whole lot of paint in here. So I will go back, I'll try to use a little less water, and I will go back and add some darker in here. All right, that was the gold. This is the twinkle, and I'm using the twinkle on, appropriately enough, a peacock feather. I think I planned that out, but who knows. All right, so this actually does really resemble, to me, the color of a peacock feather. And I'm not going to color the inside. I'm going to come back and do that a different color, because I have tried it both ways and I really like the way it looks when you add the other color. So that is the twinkle. Next is allure. Allure is another sort of goldish one, and let's get that in there nice and light. try to make this testing go pretty quickly, so we'll throw a little extra pigment right down the center and let that run in there a little bit. I'm going back with the gold and get a little heavier, and because actually I do use this color a lot, and I don't believe what I did is doing it justice. So let me get a little bit more gold in there and get that going. And we'll do some of the, I'm sure these have a name. I don't know what they are. The little down, it's like the soft downy part of a feather. All right, moving on to Treasure. This is a kind of an interesting color. I probably should reserve judgment and let you decide for yourself, but since I'm doing a review, I'm going to tell you, not my favorite color. It's a little, well, actually, the more I look at it, the more it looks like azo green, or and it actually, I wonder how it blends. I haven't used it because as by itself, I don't really love it, but I'm wondering if it will do a nice green. So I might go back and try that at some point. All right, next one is Glaze. This is a nice one. It just has such a pretty feel to it, so I want to get it right. Make sure I have enough water in there. And this glaze, so I'm putting it in nice and light to show you the possibilities. And then I'm going to go back in and just throw some extra in there, extra pigment in there, because I'm really a fan of this one. It has just a nice, I don't know, a little bit of an orange feel to it. And that is that one. Now, the next one is Antique. And I spritzed this, but again, it takes a lot of water to activate these things. Not like there are others, but I believe it must be the iridescence, whatever they use to make it iridescent. I think that takes a lot of water to activate. Okay, this is, and when I think of Antique, I'm thinking of, I'm also a mixed media artist, and I'm planning on doing a video of some of my past work that I've either had published in Somerset Studio, their set of magazines, or just some of the things I've created. And I did a lot of antiquing. You know, you can use tea to antique. You can use coffee to antique. I use a lot of walnut ink, and this just kind of reminds me of that. And I think they really got this color right when I think of antiquing. So I'm curious to see how it would antique a picture, watercolor. I haven't even thought about using it for that until just now. All right, Coppered. I must be a big fan of orange, because this is another one I not only love, but I use a lot. So let's get that in there. And it reminds me a little of the shimmer, the glaze. I'm reading this. All right, it reminds me of the glaze, but it's can go really, really copper. So this is good for if you're, again, being mixed media, I think about patinas. If you need to get a copper patina on your picture, if you're doing a tea kettle, or you're doing some kind of rust, some kind of a copper base before you color it the green color. Okay, trying to go off topic and I'm getting straying. This is next one is called Flare, and it's interesting because it looks really, really red, but then when you put it down, it's the only really red in there. And thing about this, you're not getting your primary colors. You're not going to be able to mix we don't really have a green, so you wouldn't be able to get a, and you don't have a blue, so you wouldn't be able to get a purple. You're not really going to be able to get a green because you don't have your blue. So it's a little, I don't know. It's not meant for that though. It's meant for the iridescence, and that is obvious once it dries, especially. All right, that is the Flare, and we'll let that dry a little bit, and then interestingly enough, it looks completely different on the palette, the first palette that I did, which I have up to use as a reference. All right, this one, Disco. It's number 57. It's Disco, and it is almost like a rust color. But, yeah, no, rust. That's copper. This is rust. And so we'll get this in here. And we'll go, lighten it up a little bit in some areas. Put a little more pigment. I'm trying to do this kind of quickly. I don't want this to go too long. All right, my next one's gold stone. I keep wanting to call it gold tone. It's not gold tone, it's gold stone. And get that gold stone. Let's make sure I get the right one. And the gold stone is, you know, it's a little muddy. There's so much gold in here. Not exactly sure what this is good for, but that is on me. I don't use it much, and so I need to probably explore a little bit of what that would be good for. You know, there are only so many hours in a day. All right, that is that. Champagne. Champagne, if we get this right, is, let me do champagne. Oops, keep going to my dirty water. I thought using clear jars of water would help me. They do not necessarily help me stay dirty water and clean water. I end up with just a lot of dirty water by the time I'm done, and have to change it. Often I change it a couple times during a painting if I want to stay my colors to stay nice and pure. All right, I'm going in and putting a little extra pigment in for the champagne. And that is that one. Okay, chandelier is the next one. Now, chandelier is, they're white. A lot of these palettes have a white in them, or at least a couple of them do. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, and white with watercolor seems to be a waste. But it has the iridescence, and so we're going for it. Now, I'm going to let these dry. I'm trying to decide if there's anything I'd like to go back and do a little extra in just to darken it up. I think I will just go back and let's do a little bit more on the twinkle, because I didn't think about that at the time. So that's that one. Put that in there. And I think the champagne, I wanted to just do a little bit more of the dropping. I'll just drop some pigment in a couple of places there and see what we can get with that. Disco's okay. Flare, let's do flare, because it's, like I said, it's kind of the only real red. And even then, is it a real red? Debatable. All right. Well, now I have to go, for the sake, I have to go all the way up. Oh, it's, yeah, there we go. All right, we'll just leave that. Okay, possibly glaze could use a little hit of something. So let's go in. I'm going to go into glaze, and I'm going to just do a little bit of, I'll draw some, just add a little detail just by taking the point of my brush and moving it around like that. Now I'm really curious about this treasure, because I did not like it. But now the more I look at it, the more I think, well, that looks like that azo green, like I said. I feel Allure could use a tiny little bit. Can you pick up my Jersey accent there? I've been away from Jersey for many years, and I still have, I left when I was 16. You would think I would have lost a lot of that. But it just comes back. I hear it all the time. All right, there we go. I'm gonna let those dry, and I'm going to show, I'll put that off camera for a second, let that dry. And I'm going to talk about some of the pictures I have made, some of the paintings I've made using these. So the first thing I pulled out was, I had done this around Christmas time. I was using these to add sparkle to my Christmas cards, and I decided, let's see what I could do with just the shimmering lights for an actual painting. And so I did 3 little tree studies, and while they are kind of pretty, there isn't a lot that I can say about what I could do with just the Shimmering Lights palette. I I kind of felt like I didn't know where to go, and I would just make a mess if I kept working with those. This is, I believe, the gold and the glaze and the copper maybe, and then this of course is the flare and the disco, the reds, and then this one looks like I used all the kind of the neutrals, twinkle antique, and I don't know what else. So all right, so that's the first thing you can see if you're just sticking with this palette. However, this is what I did in the fall, and this one, I'm hoping I have that up there. If you can see the shimmering, I used, I believe, just the gold and the copper, and I used layers of it. I would let the layers dry in between, and I let it run into each other. I did it around this. This is a design I just took off the internet, and I just love the way that those blended and the colors I was able to make with the background part. Not really. Okay, so that one's that. And then I was doing World Watercolor group for Instagram has these prompts, and this one was Mermaids. And so for Mermaids I did share, and I painted share with other colors. I believe I used the Decadent Pies. I was really into the Decadent Pies set at this point. Because I thought it worked well for portraits. But if you can see, I'm hoping I'm showing it, the shimmering of her tail, I went over it with the chandelier, and this is what's so amazing about the chandelier. And then I went in, I think I used Twinkle on her bodice, but then I went and I'm not even sure what I did with this, but I did use chandelier. I went back in with chandelier and was able to add all of this iridescence on the shells. It was perfect. This reminds me of just this sweet little crop top that you might find that would be great to wear for the holidays. I mean, that's how I saw it. Don't look at her lack of hands. I still haven't practiced my hands yet. But this, I was amazed just at even how I was able to photograph some of that shimmer on that. And then, you know, I get carried away, and then this one was Pegasus, and I did Eeyore for Pegasus. And I was using the Twinkle, and I was putting the colors on his wings and everything I wanted. I don't know. Once you get started with iridescence, it kind of takes off. And then just recently, I really recommend this World Watercolor Group prompt. That they always put out prompts for each month. And so in January of 2018, this one was balloons. And I used the shimmering lights for the balloons, and you can see I just wanted it to be really shiny, and really loved the way that came out. And then just the other day I did a painting of a lion, and here it is. And you know, it was just, I was trying to stay loose, trying not to overwork it, because I have a tendency to do that. But I used the copper and the gold in the lion's mane and on the face and stuff, wherever I wanted the copper in the mane, but you can see it. And I liked it. I wanted to play with it, and I really like the iridescence once in a while. I wouldn't use it all the time, but I think it's a nice set. I think it adds some really, you get your favorite colors, and it adds some really nice things, nice iridescence to that. All right, and finally, let's bring this back, and it is almost dry. I don't really want to use the blow dryer for it. Interestingly enough, this I did do 2 of these. This is the first one I recorded, and I believe this is the one that came out in portrait mode, or my camera stopped partway through. And then this is the second one I did, and I'm definitely getting different results. My flare looks completely different. I'm not exactly sure why. This is really interesting to me. This is flare I did the other day, and this is the flare that is happening now. And it's quite red, so I'm really happy with that, because this is as much as I thought I could get, but I really like that red. What else? The coppered, well, I use that all the time, so I really like the coppered, and I'm not surprised about that. And yeah, I guess everything else. Oh, and there's another one, the champagne. I almost feel like I used 2 different colors, because here it's quite yellow, and here it's very kind of beige and neutral tan, and I'm not sure what happened there. So you know, I don't think I mixed up my colors, but I'm beginning to wonder. Anyway, so here we are with Shimmering Lights. I I really like this. Again, I got it off of Amazon. I think I paid less than $20 because that's how I roll. And I would recommend this if you want something to add a little fun and sparkle to your watercolors. All right, thank you for watching. See you next time. Hit thumbs up if you like what you see and think about subscribing.